Well, after the issues I had with my other Sony Hi-Fi, I thought I'd get myself a cheap version as a backup, because as you can see we're in the shed here, just to play radio. And I thought, well, if I'm going to, let's get a DAB compatible player. So I thought, let's get a cheap Sony DAB player, thinking that at least I'll be able to choose lots more stations. It'll probably be better quality, wouldn't get any hiss, etc. So I opted for this one here. This is the Sony CMT GPX9 DAB for DAB, I guess. It's got a CD player at the bottom. There's your tuner section, display and tape controls, and here's the cassette deck, cassette port. Probably quite a good mechanism, but it does need new belts, because this is quite an old Sony, 2005 maybe, this one. And unfortunately I've realised there's an issue with DAB, because as you can see here, I'm tuned into capital X radio. It's found it. It's got tuned on the display. It's got DAB, but I'm not getting any volume at all. Yet if I go to, say, Classic, which is another DAB station, it's found. Wait for it to pick in. There we go. Absolutely fine. As you can see, it's also saying tuned. It's got stereo, and there's DAB. We've got DRC on there, which is a bit of a, I think, a compression range control technology. But yeah, so there's something wrong with DAB, and I've realised there's DAB, but there's also DAB Plus. So DAB was the first iteration of the digital radio, and that uses like an MPEG compression codec. DAB Plus, though, uses a different codec, a much higher codec, and I guess this one, when you tune it in, say Capital Dance, you can see it's got tune there. It can find the station, but it can't play the music, probably because this doesn't understand the new codec. So I've kind of bought something I can't really use as I intended, so that was a bit of a waste. So as you can see here on this page, quite a few of these channels will actually be DAB Plus only, especially if you look at the bottom 4 pictures there. You can actually see that only 2 of those are regular DAB, where the other 2 in the middle there are DAB Plus. That's indicated by the small icon in the top right of the box. So out of those 3 Virgin radio stations, I can only receive 1 of those on this player. The rest with DAB Plus I cannot receive. And here's a bit of information from Wikipedia, just showing that the first DAB version was actually MPEG 1 and only 128 kilobits per second, so that's quite a low quality. That's quite a low MP3 quality if you think about it, where the later ones were actually using MPEG 4. Now this is a more efficient compression codec, so it should mean that you can actually have better quality or better perceived quality of sound, but it does also explain why I was noticing that the FM stereo was actually much better quality than the DAB that I was using. DAB Plus should improve on this quality, but certainly I actually prefer the FM quality on the stereo radio I've got. I mean, luckily it actually got damaged in transit. It got smashed up here, so I had to glue that back. All the back was smashed off. The CD doesn't work, even though it was listed as working. So I managed to get quite a bit of money off this, so I haven't lost out too badly. But it means I bought something that's not really going to be any use to me now, because I wanted certainly the capital stations, and I wanted all of the DAB range, not just some of the stations on DAB. So, oh dear. I mean, I've done obviously a full tune, tried different aerials. I've got a coax here, and indeed I've actually bought myself a proper DAB aerial. Made sure that I've tried that in the vertical orientation, because DAB wants to be vertical, as you can see up there. That's that kind of ribbon cable. I've tried it outside on the shed roof, but yeah, it finds the stations absolutely fine, but because they're of a different codec, this one's not compatible. So that's a shame. So I do get a lot of stations, such as Radio 1 and 4, etc.
The name of the writer.
Oh, it's a writer who got married.
But I can't play all the DAB Plus stations, so that's a waste. It's a shame because it's, you know, typical Sony of 2005. Nice quality, good speaker, tweeter, you know, main speaker there, wooden enclosure with a port at the back, and it's got a lot of the inputs that I like to have as well. So we can actually put audio in here, and you can put in MP3 players, or you can plug your phone into that. We've got the speaker ports here, so you can plug in speakers rather than have a proprietary port. Got FM radio aerial there and AM. But yeah, not my plan. But at least I've learned something about DAB now. So if you're going to get a cheap DAB player, make sure it says DAB Plus here, not just DAB, because they are mostly not forward compatible unless you can get a firmware on them. So look for DAB and DAB Plus, because without that DAB Plus, you're going to be missing out on quite a few channels. So there we go. It's a shame. It's quite a nice little system. It's a bit annoying that you've got the tape section here, because you kind of look to tune it, and of course that's the tape, not the tuning section. The tuning section is here. You've got a bit of bass, only +2 or -2, almost not worth a knob. Same with treble. You've got DSGX, which is a bit like a bass boost, and yeah, that's about it. It didn't come with a remote, but luckily my other Sony works for most of the functions, so I can get around that. I mean, really you only need this for setting the time, etc. But there we go. Just beware. So get DAB Plus. Thanks for watching. Cheers.